Hi Year 9s, Miss Rowell here again. So last week we looked at the manufacture of paper and cards and the difference between them. This week we're going to have a look at different cards and papers in general. Okay, so we're going to start off with cartridge paper. Now that's something that you will have used in a sketchbook in art for sure. Okay, it's a good quality, usually a white colour, can be cream as well sometimes, and it often has just a slight texture to it. It comes in different weights, it also comes in different textures, depends what you want. I mean, in technology you would be using a paper that had a very smooth finish to it, because you wouldn't want to have the graininess of it. If you were drawing, you'd want it to be quite accurate. Okay, so this really good quality surface, so it can be used, it can take paint, no problem, and markers as well without it going through to the other side of the paper. Okay, so grid paper, I mean, it's quite obvious what the first one is. That's a graph paper. Okay, and again, it's used for accuracy. So printed paper with different grids, you can use them for guidelines. The one on this side here, this is one that you will use predominantly in design technology, and that's called isometric paper. All right, and it makes it easier to draw 3D shapes because you follow the lines. Okay, so you're always going to be drawing at a 30-degree angle, and it'll give you a accurate drawing. Okay. Layout paper is a thin, translucent, lightweight paper. It can be drawn on with markers, and it takes colour well. Okay, and you can sort of overlap different layers onto one sheet. If you put sort of a marker pen, you draw with a marker pen on it, and you let it dry, you can then put another layer over the top, and it'll show through. Okay, so you get sort of different shading outcomes with it, and you can layer up your drawings, but you can also use it to have work on top to draw through and to sort of take different layers away and add different layers to change the outcome of what you're drawing. It's very easy for quick sort of ideas and changing them very quickly. Now tracing paper is quite similar to layout paper in that respect. You can see through it, but there's a slight sort of distortion to what you see, but you can see lines very clearly. And if you use a light box, or if you taped it to the window, you would see whatever you were drawing underneath. You see it quite clearly. It's used for tracing pre-done drawings and being able to then replicate it. It's slightly different from some papers because it has got very closed grain. So when you draw on it with graphite pencil, for instance, it sits on top of it. So you can use it then, or as like a carbon paper, which I'm just going to show you a little video about how you can use it to help repeat patterns. Okay, so moving on to bleed-proof paper. Now that is a smooth paper which it prevents marker bleed. Okay, so it's used often with water or spirit-based markers. And when we talk about marker bleed, what we mean is if you put a felt tip pen on a piece of paper and you left it there, the dot that you had would gradually get bigger because the fibres in the paper draw out the ink, or the felt tip ink, from the pen and creates that big or enlarging dot that you'd see. The bleed-proof paper's got like a coating on it that prevents that. So it's really good for presentation drawings and for using things like markers, because you're going to get a really accurate, sharp finish to it. Okay, moving on to card now. So we're going into the first part of the cardboard, and we've got corrugated. Okay, so that's strong and it's very lightweight, mainly due to its structure. Okay, so if you can see on this diagram, you've got a single face with and then a single wall, then you've got a double wall and triple wall. Now, the more you've got, obviously, the more protection that it offers. Okay, so it's made up of 2 or more layers, and there's a fluted middle, which helps to insulate and dissipate sort of shock in a way. So if you drop something, that if it's being transported or it gets bumped or dropped, it's likely to stay safe because it's offering that much of a protection. Okay, so for that reason, it's used for, you know, pizza boxes, it's used for large boxes to carry expensive or breakable items during transportation. And then it would go down to maybe a single wall when it was the actual packaging that it was going to come in. So you've got different layers of corrugated packaging protection that you would use. Okay, so generally speaking, if it was in a lorry, you'd have double or triple wall surrounding it. It would be unpacked from that for when it was in the shop down to a single wall box, and that's still offering a bit of protection because it's got the flutes in it, and it's very lightweight and secure and very good for packaging. Right, duplex board, like it says on here, it's a thin board, and it's got one side that's generally used for printing. Okay, it's usually used for packaging, and because of that, especially if it's used for food packaging, it's one of the few cardboards that you don't use recycled card to make. Okay, if it's got to do with food, then the actual original materials used cannot be from recycled. But duplex board, printer on one side, it's nice and smooth, and it's got a really good finish to it. So this board here, obviously foil lined board, it has one side that is coated with foil. This helps to keep heat in, so if you are transporting like takeaway meals or, you know, hot food or anything like that, ready-made meals, it's ideal because it will keep the heat in. Okay, right, so foam core board is basically 2 pieces of board with a core of foam to increase its thickness. Alright, so it's a thick board, but it's very lightweight, perfect for presentation boards, so you know, you don't have to worry about the weight of something being on a presentation display unit, or whether you have to put it on a board or a wall. So it's perfect for that kind of outcome. It's also really good, architects use it for model making, and because it's dead easy to cut, and it's just got that little bit more substance to it than just a thick card would have. So it's very good for construction in that respect. So Inkjet card, again, it's a card that's been treated so that it will accept and allow the Inkjet printer to work on it. All right, it's treated with a coating so it prevents smudges and streaks. So you get a really good finish from it, a nice sharp finish, no bleeding. That's really important if you're printing out information, especially if you've got vital information. You don't want anything becoming unreadable, so you need it to be sharp. So it has got this treated surface which stops that bleed and the smudgy effect that you could get if you just use normal card or paper. The solid whiteboard is it's the top quality cardboard, right? It's smooth, it's white, it's produced by using bleached wood pulp, so it's got that really clean white finish to it, and because of that, it's very good for printing on, and it tends to be used for sort of good quality packaging, or book covers, you know, or things like perfume bottles, something that's a little bit more expensive and needs to have that sort of purity of colour. Okay, so it's a top quality cardboard, very smooth, very white. So finally, what I'd like to do today is make notes on each material, describing the properties and the uses. So when we ask you to describe the properties, it means what is good about that material, why would it be used. So when we talk about the properties of solid whiteboard, for instance, it's smooth, it's great for printing, okay? That's the properties. A use of it would be perfume bottle, packaging, or hardback books. So when I ask you for properties and uses, that's what I'm talking about. Now I've put a little link underneath. This, again, technology student, okay, it's a little poster with basically the information on that you need. That is great help. Any questions that you're not sure about, if you can't get hold of me or anybody else, have a look on Technology Student, because it has an absolute wealth of information there for you. So if you click on that link, it'll bring up a little revision board, really, of all of the things that we've just looked at. And can you please create some form of notes or even a poster describing the properties and uses of the paper and card that we've looked at today. Thank you very much. Next week, I think could be metals, I think. So I will see you then. Okay? Have a nice day. Bye bye.